地球の心と物質
We'll start the episode right now. But so the storytelling show I'm going today, it had Tim Dillon, Mark Norman, Sal Volcano from Practical Jokers, Ari Shafir, Krista Stefano, and somebody else. And the reason I bring it up is because Krista Stefano had this story so fucking funny. And the reason I can verify how funny it is because I think in the following week I saw Jonathan and we were just having some drinks. And to this day, I retold that story that he told so bad, right? Like nowhere near how close it was. And to this day, Jonathan is like, that's one of the funniest things I ever heard in my life. That's how funny Krista Stefano is, man. And I don't know, bro. It's just, I'm excited for tonight. I'm fucking hyped now. I'll drink this coffee.
I mean, now you got the Cofefi, and it's La Colombe. Yo, did you know that they got fucking storefronts for La Colombe?
Yeah, of course.
I didn't fucking know that.
Bro, I pass one all the time. What the fuck?
Shut the fuck up. I only saw one when I was in fucking DC.
Really?
I like in DC, like they were like, hey, you want to get La Colombe?
Man, shut the fuck up with your fucking hipster LICS, your fucking Prospect Park.
Get your ass back to McCarran Park. Read a fucking book about Sacagawea. Welcome back to the show, motherfuckers.
What's up, man? All right. Let me start this thing. Hold on. Let's go.
Just so much energy. It's like, no, wait, actually, hold on. Wait, we need a second. We need to gather our bearings. It is 4:20, guys.
We're starting the show for real?
Yeah, why the fuck not?
I thought we were just chatting.
Man, shut the fuck up. We are back, boys and gals and girls and thous and theys and thems and Jesus. We're all back. He's back. That's so fucking funny.
Just mentioned you. Thank you.
Yeah, man. And in the spirit of 420 and Jesus being risen, this is also rising from the camera. I'm gonna do a cool little like zoom in on the wide cam.
Okay. I'm a dickhead because you were putting it over there. I'm like, where's the camera?
Where's the camera? I'm filming it on the fucking camcorder. But I roll myself a little cross joint, yo.
And I was gonna say like real quick, back to like when I used to smoke a lot of weed, I was real fucking lazy. That's not a criticism on weed, that's a criticism on myself. And you know, you can't blame weed for being lazy because Javi is a perfect example of you can be productive as fuck, almost too productive. It's so high, you know what I mean?
I'm
like,
just locked the fuck in, man.
Honestly, Adderall ass fucking pothead. and I was gonna say like most potheads will look at the cross joint and like, yo, we gotta roll one of them these days, and none of them ever do. When I was at the peak of smoking weed, everybody, yo, we're gonna roll a cross joint. How people construct a cross joint, take his time. I don't know, it's weird, man, but in the best way. In the best way, like OCD, respectfully, you know.
I think rolling is an art in itself.
Of course.
I find it very therapeutic. Genuinely, like I like rolling. It
Me too. Like a nice joint, and then people enjoy it. But a cross joint is pretty difficult. Like you have to take your time for that.
It took me about like 20-25 minutes.
That's already like 5 vacation days in a real pothead, lazy motherfucker.
25 minutes is the length of a sitcom episode.
You tell me roll a joint in 20 minutes. I'm requesting off. Putting my 2 weeks.
PTO. I need to roll a joint real quick.
I gotta go see my guidance counselor.
But I will need assistance with this, my friend.
Right,
so
let's not set everything on fire.
So we got this. I'm gonna lean in.
Right. Y'all do the sides.
So yeah.
All right. Okay with your hair.
Yeah. Right. Here we go.
1, 2, 3, go. And the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, Chris Rock, and Jaden Smith. Hell yeah, dog. Linger.
You gotta linger with it. You gotta get it lit up, baby.
I need my help, or you got it? Got it? All right, cool. I lit my hair on fire before. Let me tell you the story while you smoked that. I lit my hair on fire.
I remember you telling me about that once.
Yeah, man. I was smoking a bong a long time ago, and I was so responsible. And my hair was like dangling downwards. And so, yeah, like it just caught like quick strands of my hair. And that shit, man, that shit rolls up so fucking high and so quick. And I hit myself with one of these, like, you know, I put myself out. And that shit could have been bad. I was thinking about the other day, and yeah, man, I could have fucking Michael Jackson myself and like painkillered my ass and just died, but no pedophilia in between.
Yeah, and then, you don't want that.
And then what was I gonna say? But the crazier thing is that like after I like lit my hair on fire, which was very brief. It wasn't my whole head of hair. It was like the bangs, my bangs, right? I guess that's why I don't have bangs like that anymore. I burned them off, right? But
I bet you look mad cute with bangs.
I bet you I did look mad cute. Just fucking, can't see nothing. Shit, let me light my hair on fire so I can see everything.
It's like lighting the fucking veil.
No, but the crazier thing is that right after I lit my hair on fire and I came to realization how dangerous that was, I tied my hair up and I proceeded to go back to smoking the bong. You know, that's fucking crazy, man. I had a crazy habit of smoking weed.
I mean, you were a real pothead.
I was fucking ridiculously stupid.
I don't know if we ever told this story in the podcast, but the first time I met Frankie, he was high as fuck. To the point that he didn't even really remember meeting me. And it was only after like
was it we're in work or was it
at
like,
work? Yeah.
Wow.
And like it was after a while, and you were just kind of like, once you found out that I smoked and shit, you were like, yeah, you know, I don't even really remember meeting you. I was high as fuck when we first met. I don't really remember that conversation or anything.
Yeah, man. Oh my god, it's so crazy how. Like again, I don't look at not smoking as I don't like people who think when they start smoking they've reached this peak level of like, oh, I'm so much better now. Like, no, you're probably less interesting than you were when you smoked before. But I don't know. It is what it is, you know. So,
but you know, in the spirit of 420 and Easter being risen, we are talking about the societal inequality of about aristocrats in this. Tale.
We are. And last thing, okay, last.
Oh, you know, also wait, actually,
what's up?
Because I just realized we didn't do this last episode, or I think the episode before that. So we need to get back on track.
Oh.
But you know, we are going to be talking about this book here.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And we're going to be talking about it here on Earth.
Mind.
It matter. What are we talking about? What's going on in the Earth?
In our minds.
And that's why it matters.
This is Earth, Mind, and Matter. Thank you for listening to this show. Thank you for coming back. If you haven't listened to us in months or weeks or whatever it is.
It's Link's fault.
Link's fault. We're older now. We're more fit.
We're wiser.
I was vegetarian for 3 months.
He was, y'all.
But that's beside the point. We'll talk about that in the news episode with Chow no more. But we are on AMC right now.
Yeah.
I will say the last time I got high, I was listening to sports commentary very carefully.
Just like the way you were holding that notepad too, just like
I was just watching sports and I was laughing along with the jokes, and I'm like, this is fucking strange.
You man, sports commentators be chatting OD.
But anyway, we are talking about what's it called, The Man Who Laughs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting right into it. Instead of like, you know, lingering on the if you want to hear us talk more like in terms of rant or news and this and that, we have alternative episodes for that, which will come after this one or previous to this one, and like 60 more, right?
Yeah.
So,
and you know, for those who don't know if this is your first episode, AMC, albums, movies, and comics. We go through that. We cycle through them each time we hit an AMC episode. Today is the comic episode. Yes, next AMC episode will be an album episode, and so forth.
Hell yeah.
Banana bread.
Yeah. So we're talking about the banana.
I gotcha. The banana bread. We're talking about the banana bread who laughs.
Fuck, dog.
Hell yeah.
No, we're talking about The Man Who Laughs, written by David Hine and illustrated by Mark Stafford, right? This is adapted from Victor Hugo's novel A.M.C, which basically stands for The Man Who Laughs. This book was published 2013. I forget what the publisher is. It's somewhere there. But
yeah, it was a very small publisher.
Yeah. Let's actually put it, because actually they have.
Here, I got you right now.
Yeah,
Self-made hero.
Self-made hero. What's it called? Yeah. Anyway, back to this and that. It's an adaptation from Victor Hugo's novel The Man Who Laughs, which is a French written book. Victor Hugo, very famous. He wrote Les Mis, and then he wrote, what else is called? The fucking Quasimodo.
Yeah.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or whatever it is. Very famous stories, but this is a third story that wasn't, you know, so grand in his whole, like, you know, existence of being a writer.
It's like, out of those tales, if you're familiar with them, this is definitely like the more like fucked up one of them for sure, which is probably goes for why it didn't take off as much.
Exactly. And his father was one of Napoleon Bonaparte's generals, and which is crazy, right? So
what the fuck? If
you read the indent or whatever that's called in the thing, it tells you all the information immediately. And I don't want to write the whole thing piece by piece by piece. But I don't know if you already know this now. I'm sure you did after reading it. But this story is one of the biggest inspirations for the Joker.
I guess that makes sense.
No, like it actually is.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, you know how difficult it was to find this book without like having to find Batman books, like
exactly.
so it really does make sense, and like it's essentially in a lot of ways like the Killing Joke before the Killing Joke ever came out.
Kind of, right? And that's not even like an opinion thing. That's just something that's written there, like historically. Like it's a big inspiration to when they were writing Batman. Joker pretty much arise from that. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's other factors as well.
Yeah.
But this being someone who's disfigured in the face by other people, and he's permanently looking like he's laughing, even though he's pretty miserable in his own self and stuff like that.
Sad clown.
Yeah, man, and it's fucking crazy, dog. So, what's it called? I don't know. We'll go through it freely and everything. But what are your thoughts on the book overall in the beginning and this and that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned to you that I mentioned to you before we started filming that I actually had read excerpts of the novel in a class in college for this class called The Individual and Society, very aptly named class for this book, because just we read excerpts from it to just kind of like gauge this idea of like the tired conversation of just like how society impacts us and like makes us view ourselves and how society views us and inwards and outwards and all that talk. And it definitely, reading this as a comic was super interesting, considering like the excerpts that I read in novelization and then seeing them adapted to a comic, because a lot of times when that happens, the comics can't always be that great.
Yeah, and it was definitely like sawed up a little bit. The writer, I forget his name again, my bad. I just fucking David Hine. He was saying that he wanted to, in some sense, like dissect this book and spread it across, but didn't want to massacre it in the process. So there's a lot of stuff that he included in itself, like that he added, but his goal was to really, again, get it across without really destroying what Victor Hugo meant to come across as. And it's interesting. I think it's interesting because that must be a hard task, and I'm sure a novel is so much more longer, way different toned, I
mean, and different writers, different language, all that stuff.
And Victor Hugo was an incredible writer to have written all these things, and I think this book in particular was pretty suppressed because it really spoke against like a monarchy and stuff like that, and it was in the beginning of the era of romanticism, and so if I'm not mistaken, that's when, again, like the idea of a monarch was pretty much like beginning to just be diminished in the sense of like, yo, what the fuck is this,
Right.
And basically we start a story with a boy who's is definitely like just massacred in the face. His face is all cut off. He's forced to look like he's smiling the whole time because his lips and nose are cut off. He finds a blind baby girl on the street and then needs help, so he runs into Uncle Ursus, right, with his dog Homo. Ursus to represent Beast, which is the guy, and then
Ursus Major,
and then Homo to represent Man, which is the wolf. I know that's what it's meant to be. The wolf is called a man's name. Ursus is called Beast's name. And then they come together. They need to make money. They need to strive, and they end up going to London. Through performance of his ugly face. Ursus is a big fan.
Like straight up, it's just like he is just a show pony for his disfigured face.
And Ursus is such a big fan of Shakespeare and really is trying to get this story across to other people. But all the crowd enjoys is watching Gwynplaine, which is his name, right? That's his fucking name, right?
Yeah.
Gwynplaine.
Gwynplaine.
He's the one disfigured in the face. They just enjoy watching his face and laughing at him, and that's what they pay money for. And the reason I brought this up before we started shooting is I watched David Lynch's Elephant Man. And do you know about that at all?
I don't know. I don't know what the movie's about. I've only ever heard of it.
But do you know the story of, because it's based off a true person and stuff like that?
I know. No?
Man, it's crazy. The Elephant Man, quick side note, is based off a guy called John Merrick, who's basically deformed like a motherfucker. I'm sure you've seen pictures of him. Okay. No? You ever seen pictures of John Merrick?
I think I know what this is actually, because I think
it's a famous story. Tale.
I think
what story?
Family Guy like made a joke about it at some point where it's like they're having like a picnic or something out in the park or some shit, and it's like she's blind.
No, that's a different movie where she feels his face and he's like, oh my god. No, that's a different movie I've never watched either, with like a redheaded motherfucker. No, this movie is like, it's a guy who had elephantitis, who had this like disgusting looking face and whatever. And he was just basically like a show pony. He was carried around to be a freak. And then the guy, he was like, this is all he can do. But in reality, like, he could speak English. Like, he was able to talk. And there's a very famous scene where he's being chased by a bunch of people on the train. And he's like, stop! like, I am a man, I am human. It's John Hurt plays the Elephant Man, and Anthony Hopkins plays the Doctor.
Okay.
It's an incredible fucking film.
So it's basically like Frankenstein,
pretty much, and it's basically parading someone who looks insane, and showboating him to make money off of. And in that sense, in that film, and in that story, because it's based off a real person who lived like that, that was done selfishly. The guy who found the Elephant Man, he was kind of using him in a dirty way, like kind of forcing him to perform for other people. Whereas here in The Man Who Smiles, Gwynplaine is kind of being treated amazingly by Ursus, and taken care of with Dea, who the name stands for divine. Even though she can't see, she still is very like beautiful and can, whatever.
right?
So there's opposite spectrums,
and that's also another similar theme within Frankenstein too, where it's like there's a whole section where the monster is kind of like pseudo living with this family. Like the family doesn't know that he's there, and they think like some animals just keeps taking their food and whatever, and like the kid of the family thinks he's like his imaginary friend or whatever. So it's like he starts reading and learns how to read and all this stuff. He sees like the beauty in people in that moment, and then once they see him, they're like, hey, Jesus Christ, yo, man, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, man. And so basically fucking they're making money, they're doing this, and they're like, they start making money, and then they're like, yeah, but we need more. So they end up going to London. And ultimately, they get into this whole situation with royalty, and it's a lot of complex in and outs. So we won't really break down that and like spoil everything, But I don't know. Like I feel like when I read the book, I had so much to talk about, but there is so much about it that I really did admire, and I'm trying to find a good way to enter, this story.
I mean, I think in general for me, like, because already having the context that I had of reading the excerpts before reading this, I kind of already had a general sense of what the story was about. Because when you first sent me this, I didn't know what it was. But then once I opened it up, read it and whatever, and like I saw that it was by Victor Hugo, I was like, oh wait, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, I have read parts of this.
Exactly.
And so, because it's not a groundbreaking tale or anything.
Yeah.
It's a very like common tale that's told throughout history for sure. And it's just what I think this book does so well overall is just like the very strong political themes that run through it.
Yeah.
Like
they can still hold strong today, especially
like it's very applicable.
Yeah.
And it's just, it feels very timeless. And like, even say, if you look at something that it did inspire, like the Joker, and if you look at like the Joker movie, it's like, you can try and say that you were also doing the same thing with that, just way more blatantly.
Yeah. And then and of course this falls into the Joker movie with the wealth gap and stuff like that. Well, whatever. Spoilers are going to be here anyway, because we're going to talk about the book, right?
Yeah.
But the speech he gives at the end, right, where he like holds his like lip together to make his disfigurements now look as and everybody's listening to him, and he's talking bad about the royalty and how we shouldn't give $10,000 more to the people and this and that. And it's so crazy, man, because I mean that holds true. And then when his disfigurements are finally shown throughout his speech, because he's telling it so like grand, then they start laughing at him, because they're like, oh, of course he would never talk bad about the royalty, he's just joking and this and that,
right.
And it's I don't know, like we almost do that to people today.
It's a satire. I mean,
Yeah.
You do it to me with the environment.
Well, yeah, because it's ridiculous.
Man, this is dank as fuck.
No, but I mean, it is also like very true to some extent, because then you have like the meme I was sending to you about the ladies in space, or the ladies screaming on the sidewalk, because those, I mean, it kind of muddies the water a little bit when you have somebody being exaggerative. Like if Trump wins the presidency, you have people screaming in the streets, like what's that gonna do? That's also a very like reverse kind of way of doing things. You know what I mean? Because we live in a democracy, right? So if we're okay with one person winning, it doesn't mean we have to be okay with the other person winning, but that's what we want, right?
And as the Joker says, we live in a society.
Yeah, which is the cheesiest line, I guess, because it's just
fucking Jared Leto. What a fucking loser.
Jared Leto, is it? Oh, Joaquin Phoenix is which one?
Well, Jared Leto is the one who says we live in a society when he plays Joker, and they took the line out of the movie because it's fucking stupid.
It's stupid.
So they were like,
when you said that, I was like, wait, what is that supposed to be like a good line?
And it's like, whoa, oh my. We live in a society, bro. What?
Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
Yo, heat fucking.
I forgot about the soundboard. There's a couple things I do have here. One of it is in the I keep trying to think of a film, but in the book, Gwynplaine is 24 and Dea is 16 when they grow older and stuff, and this is when he starts to become attracted to her. I do wonder. I don't have this information if those ages were elevated because this book is a 2013 book. You know, compared to this book was written what 18. 59, I'm not thinking, or 1869.
Okay.
You know, so I'm assuming, you know, those Victor Hugos and everything. Yeah, like was it like 16 and she was like 8, you know, yeah. Which I wouldn't be surprised at.
I mean, I think even maybe for the 1800s they were still kind of like on that same spectrum of like at least like 12 or like.
Nah, of course. 8 years old is just an exaggeration.
Okay. I had to say.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, man. It's weird times and everything, and I don't know. The Wampake or whatever, the Wampig, you know what I'm talking about? The guy who took everything. What's his name? Wapentake.
Yeah.
Or the Wapentake. That's actually a character that the writer made up.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of his way of bringing stuff into the book and stuff. Either he made up or one of the writers did, but that's not a real thing that was occurring in London at that time.
Okay.
It was just a good way of, you know,
helping the plot progress
basically.
A little bit. Yeah.
I do very much like the Compra Chicos, which was I'm assuming the Spanish weren't very much liked at the time. You know?
No, I mean,
because in one of the lines, Ursus sees a Spanish shilling, and he's like, "Oh, I mean, it's Spanish, but it's still, you know, money and stuff like that." And everything. And
they're very like dismissive about the whole thing. It's like, and it was similar for me of how like you told me about how like for a long time and still to this day like Italians don't like being called white.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like almost like a similar thing where it's like, you know, they're Spanish, but like, you know. Yeah.
No, I don't know if it was just some conflict going on between London and Spain at the time. Like historically, I don't know.
Well, from what I remember of like when we did talk about it back in school, it was around like
the conquistadors and shit like that.
Like the
I don't
fucking
know.
one of King James, one of those King James.
Yeah, because King James was around. This setting is technically in Queen Anne's London.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was saying and stuff like that, though.
So it's around like the reign of like one of King James back in history, and like he definitely had a lot of beef with like Spain and shit. So it's like that is like a lot of historical context that like doesn't necessarily get explained. I don't know if the novel like really delves into it too much because I only read the excerpts a little bit.
I guess it's also one of those things where
like how important is it to the overall plot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, but it's like I guess if you were to put out a book about 2025 America and you mentioned Russia, we would understand the reference. Right. And probably would for another 10 years. But then after a while, you're like, I don't really get it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it has to do a lot with it. But I don't know. I would say to speak a little more freely of the book because I feel like referring to notes kind of like stops me a little from like really thinking about it. It was a beautiful book, and super easy to read and pretty deep,
it's
pretty
like
vulgar.
170 pages.
Yeah,
like
man. That. And it flows so fast. But it hooked me in immediately because it was so gruesome. You know, and I think even with how I guess the novel is supposed to, it's kind of like when you watch a movie and you're like the book was better, you know. This novel is a little more lighthearted, even though there's a lot of topics and Gwynplaine, like he looks so creepy. Yeah. You know, he looks so creepy, but even when he sees Dea, like, you know, like tying her hair and her nipple comes out and stuff like that, and he's like feeling this urge of want, he rushes out the trailer to go to Ursus and say, like, I can't be in the same bed as her. Like, you know, like, I feel like this is wrong and blah, blah, blah. And
he's like, I want to fuck, but I don't want to fuck.
Basically, and there's this purity of him. Right? There's this real, like, angel-like essence of him, which is so strange because when he becomes Lord, right, when he finally becomes Lord, even and maybe hearing how he got disfigured, you know, he kind of gained this like ego trip, like power trip, you know.
It's like
how one man can change so fast, you know, and the lust for Juliasa, you know.
What was her name?
Juliasa, I think so. Josiana. Oops. You know.
Yeah, no, Josiana. But I think like I was so surprised to see like how many certain tropes this book hits, where it's like, you know, obviously the novel came out 1869, so it's like, you know, who's to say what inspired those things to happen in the story, but we've seen those same tropes
Yeah,
play out in a million stories from
absolutely.
then till now. And like the whole thing of like him finding out about how he is a lord and like him going on his ego trip.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we just saw that in Dune. And
Mhm.
like, you know, Dune was also a novel that was written back, I think, in like the 80s or some shit.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I mean, I mean, I don't know. It also goes to show how many layers this book has too, because Victor Hugo wrote this 1869,
yeah,
and you have,
man.
you said, there's so many characters and there's so much backstory. There's like the whole book about what's his name, Chan Charlie, and the father being exiled from London and this and that, but him being the true son of Gwynplaine. But then you got Lord David, who's in love with not in love, but he has to marry Josiana.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have Bart, whatever the creature's name,
Yeah.
spying on both of them.
Right.
But then you got Queen Anne, and then it's just
There's
like,
a lot of like
you know,
weaving.
it's incredible how like
Yeah.
exactly the weaving part of it is so crazy. How I mean, it's a real story,
Mhm.
and the way I looked at it yesterday is like I was watching the playoffs, right? I was doing this, and I was like, okay, I have to focus, and so I'm reading the book, and thankfully it's so quick to get through, but it's not that it's the novel aspect where you have pictures and stuff going, but the story is so intense, and I can't imagine Victor Hugo just writing this and how entertained people must have been reading this, and how again like the story can kind of alter your mind when you think about the monarchy,
Mhm.
you know, through this entertaining read. You're like, wait, but wait a second, like
Yeah.
Gwynplaine has a huge point right now, you know?
No, I think because like I was mentioning before, I think maybe like that's kind of one of the reasons why it didn't sell super well,
Mhm.
the whole anti-monarchy aspect of
Yeah.
it, because I do know that like during that time, like books in this vein of being super gruesome and
Yeah.
vulgar and like just sex driven and things like that, those books sold like fucking hotcakes back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I think it really was like the anti-monarchy aspect of everything that made it not sell too well, or like
Mhm.
made it maybe get off the ground as like his other books. But it's just because I think of I also think of like Maul Flanders. I hate that book. That book sucks. But like it's a very like
What book?
Maul Flanders. I have it somewhere
What is
here.
that? I don't know.
Here, right here. It's a novel.
I'm listening to you, by the way.
Yeah, it's a novel, but about this chick who just like has a shitty life and she's just kind of a shitty person, and it's like the entire book is a huge comment and social commentary on capitalism because it was written during the time when capitalism was first invented, and the guy who wrote it was super anti-capitalist and was like, I'm gonna write a story about what happens to a person when they fall under capitalism, and this is her story. But none of that is said in the book. You're just reading about her shitty life and all the shitty decisions.
But you have to
she
like kind of
makes.
pick up on that yourself. You have to kind of figure it out yourself and everything.
So it's like super subtle, but like when you know the context of it, like it hits. And it's just I compare it a lot to like The Man Who Laughs, where Victor Hugo just very clearly like knew how to better portray that aspect of
Yeah.
being anti-monarchy, anti-capitalist, like anti just fucking government, whatever. And it's like he knows how to portray that very well and tastefully. I think it's not like in your face.
Yeah.
It's not like, you know, down with the man. It's just kind of this sort of outside perspective that just says, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
This kind
Kind
of
of
sucks.
pulls on your heartstrings first, and then you have the moment of realization afterwards and stuff like that. Because the speech he gives is pretty blatant in terms of against the, you know, not wanting to give, you know, the monarchy an extra 10,000 pounds or euros or whatever it was at the time. And Les Mis, I feel I've watched the movie Les Mis with Anne Hathaway and stuff.
Yeah.
I love that shit, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's beautiful. What's it called? And I mean,
Jack.
it shows the tragedy of those motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Living in the, and then it was in the French Revolution and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken. And then I don't know what Quasimodo is as much. That I'm not quite sure.
I'm familiar with that one, but I just know of it.
Yeah. But I don't know. A story like this is like even what's her name when Josiana was. Oh my god, there's a lot of quotes in this fucking book, but she says
there's a lot of good quotes. Yeah,
it's fucking incredible, man.
I mean, Victor Hugo, like, and obviously respect to David Hines, but it's just like Victor Hugo, just like
amazing, and
writer.
Exactly right. I was gonna say some of these lines, most of these lines are probably not him at all. You know what I mean? It's just straight taken from the book itself. But Josiana, right? That's the name.
Yeah.
She is in love because she's beautiful, right? And she has one eye that's black, one eye that's blue, and she finds herself attracted to, you know, creatures and ugliness, right? Even though she's so beautiful, is a line where it's like so seductive but never seduced because she's never content with those seeking out her for her beauty, her, and even though her lust is so grand, right? And so when
and that's a very real thing.
Yeah, man.
Like, it's like that is the most beautiful way of saying just act nonchalant.
Yeah. And
women love that. Just act nonchalant. Act like you don't want them.
And when she sees Gwen playing for, and then she's ready there to like fuck him basically. She looks at him and holds him, and she says, "The monster you are outwardly, I am within. Look at me as if I were a mirror. Your face is my mind." And it's like, God damn, man, it's such a beautiful line, and how she's so in love with him, and he can't understand. He's like, why, why he was not even willing.
He's like,
to be
me?
with, yeah, he was willing to not be with Dea because he felt bad that she couldn't see him, and if that she could, she would not fall in love with him. Right. And that's when Ursus tells Gwynplaine, he says, "You're mistaken, kid. She can see you better than all of us can." And I was like, bruh, like that's such a, like, and it's not even that of a incredible line, to say, basically, to say, Ursus dropping bombs in 1869. But yeah, it's not even to say,
hitting the Benjamin.
That shit kind of threw me off for a second. I was like, where that shit come from? Oh shit! Get down! Get down! But there is a lot of lines about monarchy as well, where Gwynplaine, if I'm not mistaken, he's the one that says, on page 57, "The paradise of the rich is made out of the hell of the poor." And then another line on page 70, where I think this is where something about revenge, right? I think Bart, the creature, he wanted to just do all this shit. Like, he wasn't even doing it for revenge. They say it is out of just hatred.
Yeah.
And so the quote is,
hater.
Yeah, he really was. He really was just a dickhead, right?
Just a fucking dickhead.
And he said the reason they did it was, quote, "It was the purest form of hatred. Hate for the sake of hate." Mm-hmm. And then I like this line a lot. It's on page 83. I think Gwynplaine was telling Dea how much he loved her, And then Ursus says, "Shh," like basically, shut the fuck up. He's like, to declare your love too loudly is to invite evil. And I don't know, man. I thought, there's a lot more lines I have, I guess.
And it's just things like that where it's, again, like going back to the idea of like how much of this were already like tropes at the time, or like if Victor
and I'm sure
Hugo
they were
helped like create these tropes, because like a lot of these lines are very reminiscent of lines that you hear even today.
Oh yeah,
and it's just it's just such timeless writing.
Yeah,
like he fucking killed it, dude.
And I think that's the beauty of writing and the tropes that you're mentioning, is that like these aren't even like, it just takes until someone puts it down to create a track record, right? But really, these are things that we all just feel naturally as human beings, right? Through interaction, through lifetimes, through like love or terror or suffering, And I think that's why it's so crucial to like really look at art as not just this thing that you create. Like, you don't just make something and think, "Oh, I'm the origin of this being out there." Like, no, you're the one that was able to just put it in someone's face in the way they understand it.
Right.
But to some people, they might not even get what you're saying, Like, you may be an artist, like there are many who only get famous when they pass away because they didn't understand you at the time. You were like ahead of your time. And even
I made a joke recently at work, because like I at the clinic I'll do like doodles on the board and stuff, like themed stuff and whatever. And like I made a joke recently where I was just like, man, everyone's a critic. Like, it doesn't matter what I put. Like,
no matter what.
Like, I was telling Alicia and Joanna, it's like I really feel like Squidward, where it's like no matter what I do, I throw anything up there. Like,
you
fucking,
could have done this better. You could.
Yeah, someone's gonna have a question. Someone's gonna get confused. This and that, whatever. So I was just like, nah, like everyone's a fucking critic. And so I fucking did my thing for spring.
Yeah.
And it was like I did like grass, sunny sky, sun, a bunny in the front, some flowers, and I said happy spring. And I purposely didn't put happy Easter.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that because I knew someone would say something after Easter would pass, being like, "Oh, now you got to update it." So I said, you know what, let me just generalize it and put spring.
Yeah.
And then one of the nurses came over and she was like, "Oh, like, I should have put Easter because it's going to be Easter." I'm like, "Yeah, but when it's not Easter, then you're going to say I need to put spring. So what do you want?" Like, that's why the bunny's there.
Just put an egg.
Don't you see the bunny?
Just fucking put an egg in there, baby. A bunny's good too. Or maybe just don't write anything at all. Just write happy.
just fuck off. Just put fuck off.
I don't know. I think to be an artist, you have to be very selfish. you have to do what you want, right? You have to put out what you want and everything. And I think one of the coolest things about the book is that when they criticize the royalty, like, you know, everything, Ursus says, he says, yo, pipe down, because the queen has spies everywhere, you know. And that's crazy to think. Like, it even reminds me of now, where I don't know how true this is, but, you know, because Instagram posts are all over the place, especially now with Trump as president. They say, like, when you go to the airport, like, any hate that you spewed about the current president, they can look through your phone. And and again, I don't know how accurate this is,
right?
But they're saying, like, if you've criticized the president at any point, like, it can lead to repercussions and to some extent and everything, which is crazy. You know what I mean? Which I don't know how the fuck that would happen. But yeah, I mean, it's also reminds me of, like, the ads that were selling abortion pills that got silenced by Meta.
Right.
And then Meta was like, oh, bios are bad. But it's like, you know.
Even in another context of that, it's like with Meta too, it's like they do that type of thing where, like, if you say, hey, hit the link in my bio or whatever, if that gets put in your post will kind of get flagged by Meta to not get as many eyes.
It's what is it? It's a ghost. What is it? Shadow ban and everything like that, basically.
Because like and that's why even on Meta, if you try to, like, open a website on like Instagram or whatever, it opens up in Instagram instead of your web browser, because at the end of the day, you're still gonna be on Instagram.
Tracked and everything. Want. And even Seth Rogen just put out an ad for Houseplant. For a new, like, drink that has, like, THC in it, and he's like, the ad is literally this. He's like, hey, this you know, I can't do a laugh. I wish that's bad fucking funny. that's how Seth Rogen sounds to people who don't like his laugh. Because I saw some comments, they were like, what is that laugh? You know, that's that's what he's famous for. What's
that Wario laugh you sent me?
Anyway, he has an ad, and basically the ad is him saying, like, hey, I have this new carbonated beverage with something that'll make you feel really good that I can't say because of this stupid app. And he's like, and then what does he say? He's like, and I also can't say this because it'll make you feel a certain way that I also can't say because of this stupid app.
I did see this actually.
And so interesting how, like, even someone who's so known already for promoting, like, cannabis and already huge in the industry, and for, you know, so many states that are already legalizing so much, and Europe, who's already been legalizing in certain sections, you know, that you're still, just because of certain baby states who are so dumb.
Baby states.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm Alaska.
Facts. No, Alaska, you can smoke weed. I bought edibles there.
Oh, I take it back.
Don't hate on Alaska, bro.
Shit.
What's it called? And yeah, so I don't know. I also this is just random. This beho. What's it called? I saw a little post that said basically, like, it was an old lady, and I don't like when people come at. Like,
I don't like hating on old people. But I don't old like, hag,
especially an old lady. Like, the young person was asking her, and she was asking her, hey, like, you know, would you let your daughter, like, use hormone, like, whatever, blockers and stuff? Right. And the grandma was like, yeah, like, I would let her use it. You know, she felt like she needed to be this at this age, and she's a teenager. Like, I would 100% let her, and this and that, and I think it's important. And she's like, oh, okay. And then the young lady asked her, oh, but would you let your daughter get tattoos? And she's like, okay, look, I wouldn't let none of my sons or my daughter get tattoos. I just think it's just something that's, like, way too crazy and irreversible. You know, and she's like, oh, but you don't think, like, hormone blockers are reversible? Like, changing, like, you don't think a big decision that's irreversible is changing your gender? She's like, no. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like, and it's like a nice old lady and stuff like that. And I'm,
she's got the biggest smile. She's the grandma who laughs.
Exactly. And I think everybody saw the whack and the outlier,
whack,
like,
whack,
Hannibal Buress. I think everybody is just becoming outliers rather than just being rational. And and even saying that is an outlier way of thinking, because to put everybody under this blanket of being insane is crazy. Because I'm not normal. Nobody's normal, you know?
Yeah. I always feel weird when people say, like, well, yeah, because, like, you know, like, people's opinions suck. And it's like, I mean, that's kind of a sucky opinion.
Exactly, right? Because that's everyone. You know? But everybody's so opinionated.
Yeah, it's just that's just what it is. Like, you just need to, like, take it as it goes sometimes, which is unfortunate. And, like, but I mean, like, even in that same aspect, like, I was having a very big discussion with someone about, like, capitalism and things of that nature. same time as like throughout the week reading The Man Who Laughs, just because my friend, they were just like super like done with just like work. They're just like, I hate working, it makes me miserable, I just can't do it, doesn't matter where I'm at, it makes me miserable. And I was like, yeah, but that, like, trust me, like, I get it, like, you know. And they were just trying to say, it's like, yeah, but capitalism doesn't hurt you the way that like it hurts me or whatever, like, or it gets to me and whatever. And I'm like, just because I'm not, you know, outwardly upset about it every waking moment, doesn't mean I'm not upset about these things.
I'm more sad than you are.
Yeah, it's like it's like, dude, like, I get it. It's like, this all sucks and everything, but it's just, what are we gonna do?
You can't just not work. You have, like, you, unfortunately, it's not, and it's not even one of those things where it's like, bro, you gotta do it. Like, no, like, you have to. Like, how else are you not gonna be homeless? You know what I mean? Like, I feel
we
like
live in a society. Like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, like, I do see a lot of people who are like, you know, I'm not so much older, but they are so much younger, and there's a little more. Obviously, there's a little more like tunnel vision where you're like, oh, like, you know, I'm gonna do this and this and that. Like, no, I find myself being okay with working as much as I do, you know, even though people will think it's outrageous to work the hours I do. And I understand that it's insane, you know, but I have a goal that I'm trying to reach, and I'm okay with that. I've realized I realized that a plan that I have is, you know, I'm working towards it, and I kind of low-key made myself a 5-year plan, right? And I see people, like, you know, in some sense, like, self-criticize the way I work or the way I am mentally and stuff like that. And I'm like, unfortunately, this is how things are, you know, and I'm just trying to get through it to advance to a second level of my life, you know, to make myself more comfortable financially. And yeah, you don't think I hate this shit just as much as you do? No, bro, I just keep my shit together because I'm not trying to put my stress on you or make you feel bad for not outwardly feeling as bad, you know, as I do inwardly. You know what I mean? Like this is such a tough area for everyone, you know?
Yeah,
and then
that's why I think, like, you know, this tale is like so important.
Yeah, because he was spewing shit out, and everybody's like, "Man, shut the fuck up," you know, like,
and that's,
you know,
that's straight up what
exactly
happens today. And
yeah,
it's just that's why I say it's such a timeless story, where it's like, it's almost like the boy who cried wolf type of thing sometimes, where it's just like, doesn't matter how many times you say it, no one's gonna give a fuck, and it's just. It's such an unfortunate thing. Where
it's like preaching almost. It's like, you know, like, you know, but like without being heard, or like, you know, being heard, but it's like being acknowledged. You know?
I always kind of like to think that, like, trying to practice what you preach is suicide. And so I always feel like people who are like super anti-capitalist and things like that, and like are always like, no, we can't, like, we don't need this. It's like, okay, so what's the answer?
Exactly. And it's like people saying, like, let's get rid of all police. It's like, okay, so then go get robbed, and, you know, and then watch the police look at you, but like, we can't help you because you got rid of us. We just, you know, we have the tools, but we put them away already, and we gave it back to the government. But all the people who had the guns legally, they still have them because, you know, they didn't fall into your program of let's get back all the guns, you know. Like,
I just personally don't really like absolutes in that sense, where it's like there and, you know, neither of us are fucking politicians or have the right answers either, but it's just, I feel more than anything, it's like, this is just what life is. It's a yin yang. Like, there's a balance to everything. There's gonna be shitty people, there's gonna be good people, there's gonna be anti-capitalists, pro-capitalists, fascists, anti-fascists.
I think if you go to work and you spend money, like, you are a capitalist no matter what, like, you know what I mean? And I think that's not to say like you have to believe in that or like that's what you like are okay with. It's just like literally like we work.
You need to be a willing participant.
All of you are like all of you, including me and you, like we are part of everybody, because that's the money. It's just money. We work in America, you know, and
money makes the world go round.
Exactly. And even like the idea,
that's the way the news goes.
And even the idea of being a minimalist, you know what I mean, to get rid of all your stuff and feel like that frees you up more. It's like you're just as, you know, capitalist as the motherfucker who has all this stuff around him. Like, you know, you guys are like opposites of the same, you know, line, and it really is making no point. Like, you should just be content with how you're comfortable to live. You know, I don't know.
And I think even in that same aspect to like with this fucking dude, like in the book, like Gwynplaine, like
this fucking dude,
like with Gwynplaine when he gets like when he goes on his little ego trip, like that is something that is very applicable today, where like you see people instantly, like when they get that quick like shot of fame, like, hey, the Haktua girl, like,
but we allow it, and you know, like a lot of people criticize. I know you don't like the
not only do we allow it, but we
embrace it.
I mean, we what's the word? Fucking like
push it, right?
Yeah.
I know the word. We kind of not justify. What's the fucking word?
Affirm? No.
No.
Whatever.
Not promote. It close though, right?
Yeah, we're there though.
No, let's find the word. We encourage it.
Yes.
See, a little brain. But to some extent, it's just like I think that's also comes from jealousy. You know, like like obviously you're not jealous of her life and her reputation, right? But yeah, I would say I would be jealous of her being able to pay her bills and live her life and go like do whatever she wants and live freely to some extent. You know, like it's not like she sucked the dick on camera. You know what I mean? Like like, which is not to shit on that aspect of people. You know,
Khalifa. No, did you see that she had a fucking New York Times article?
That's Kim Kardashian. That's Kim Kardashian has a skim store on Fifth Avenue right in front of the Nike store, and then her brand is on NBA floors. And she's starting to be a lawyer. And that's the lawyer thing is pretty cool, but everything else is like, what clothes is she? Her clothes is sex. You know what I mean? But that's also men's clothes. Everything is that. My bad. What's it called? What was it? But how to a girl? Like like she's just one small, very small aspect of a human being who got freedom. Unfortunately, it's a way that we perceive as like childish and dumb. But man, like, what if we just said one thing that was dumb here, and then some company, just one thing.
Imagine.
But then some companies like, yo, here's $2 million, go make 10 episodes. Imagine it does terrible, but we get $1 million each. We'd be like, all right, well now you could work in your comics full time, and I could just do whatever the fuck I want to. What I mean? Like,
just like that. I mean, that's why I say the Haktua girl, and like the only reason why I hate on her is just because I don't find her funny.
No, of course. And there's a lot of people I don't find funny either. You know what I mean?
Like I seen some of the clips of like her stand up and shit. And it's just like,
I didn't know she did stand up.
Yeah, dude.
I mean,
she's fucking trash at it. And like clips of her podcast, garbage.
I believe it, man. I believe it. And imagine, and she's like, and yours, and we're like, yo, shut up, Haktua girl.
Yo, man,
we're not rich.
You know what? Fucking respect it.
Yeah, man. I don't know, but it's a crazy thing.
I do think, like, as you say, like some of it does come from like envy and jealousy.
Of course,
like,
it has to.
I can say like I am envious of the fact that like she has this fame and fortune for fucking just being on camera saying Haktua. Mm-hmm. Like, while I'm over here busting my ass.
What is her podcast called? It's called
Talk to Her.
That's so clever.
Dude, I was actually just telling Jordan the other day the Swamp Thing that I just made the time lapse for it. It took me almost 2 hours to ink that Swamp Thing. Yeah. And that video was 30 seconds. And when I told Jordan about that, I was like, yep, 2-hour video cut down to 30 seconds that people are going to watch 8 seconds of. And I look at the insights, 7 seconds.
That's what I think about
me.
But I think about I think about the Studio Ghibli guy, right? Who they took like a year or like 7 years to make that one frame or like that. I'm like, bro, that's like ridiculous.
I'm gonna need you to clap.
That's like, that's insane. Like, don't get me wrong, Japanese work hard as fuck, and I probably would enjoy it when I watch it in theaters or like everything.
But I mean, they are notoriously known to work a little too hard.
Of course, because they're during
just their culture.
I think during World War II, man, the way like. I think you know this already, and I brought it up, but like the prisoners, when they would get freed, like the Japanese prisoners from Americans, like, you know what I'm trying to say? The Japanese that were held prisoners, like that Americans held prisoner,
right? When
the Japanese freed them, they would kill them because they were like, you shouldn't have got caught in the first place. And then seppuku or whatever, like, killing yourself because you're like, they're so. Like in that time period, of course the Japanese were insane. You know what I mean? Like they were just so wild with how like and almost like dictatorship their control was over their people.
And like you fast forward to modern day, and so you look at like
they are
like manga artists. Like I don't know if you're familiar with how like much like manga artists like work hard.
Bro, we talked about One Piece and Aishiri.
Getting sick.
Yeah, bro, he worked his ass off through everything. He didn't even live in the same house as his wife and kids, and in the hospital he still drew.
Just to fucking get shit out on schedule.
But then you get motherfuckers killing themselves because they can't pass certain school, like objectives because that's the sad aspect. A lot of people, you got Americans posting, what's it called? 10 reasons Japan is so ahead of us and this and that. But they don't consider the fact that, like, yeah, but you're fucking lazy. And if you were living in Japan, you would not meet the standards of work ethic. You would bring your American work ethic over there, and you would probably worsen their culture.
Like, yo, man, get this fucking guy out of here.
You only want to work 8 hours? What do you mean, bro?
8 hours sounds lovely, actually, but boy.
Yeah, like there's such a different way of doing things, you know, where, and that's just lifestyle, culture, and stuff like that. I'm not saying Japan isn't better than the U.S. and a lot of things. U.S. is fucking cool, man. I don't know. It's such a weird world where everybody's doing weird things, but back to Victor Hugo and the whole emphasis he had on the wealth separation.
Yeah.
I mean, now more than ever. I mean, not even now more than ever. It's always been like that politically here. But yeah, you got when you introduce Elon Musk.
I would say like now more than ever. Like you look at like the statistics, like the graphs and everything. Like the
the graphs. Which graphs? I don't know.
I've seen them. I'll put them here. I probably won't.
I know, but it's pretty funny to just say, "Have you seen the graphs?"
Like there are like graphs
like
and data and analytics that show that like the wealth gap has increasingly like.
I mean, but also
wider.
What's it called? Yeah, but my whole thing is when it comes to politics, and yeah, it's become wider and stuff like that, whatever. Yeah, but how long have like lobbyists been interfering with like politicians' actions, right? Like you forget that the rich has always been determining what is going to happen politically to us, which is basically to say like when he's saying right here, Victor Hugo, and I'll read it again, just because like it's always been true and it never has stopped being true. Where he says the paradise of the rich is made out of the hell of the poor. When has that not been an occurring thing? And then now today it's just people's lives are being used as, you know, just chess pieces in their game.
Exactly that.
You know, but it's always been the case. You know what I mean? This is nothing new. We just have somebody who's just more. Unfortunately, I will say like blatant about it. Tells you how it is. You know, but he really is telling you how it is in his own way, even though it's pretty insane. And rather than try to work with them, we really shit on this guy so much. We're like, what reason does he have to hear Democrats out? You know, what reason? Like, why would you try to help out the people who like shunned you for 4 years, try to impeach you, try to like this and that, like all these things, brought you to trial? I mean, he's a criminal technically, you know. Like, why do you feel the need to help? You know, like he's just empowered, you know, small dick energy. You know, like Republicans small dick. Yeah, but like now Republicans do feel like in their own sense that they're the ones dominating this world or this country, which they're not. Obviously there's a lot of flaw in that where I do feel like a lot of rednecks who are dirt poor don't benefit from this. But they benefit ideologically, you know.
I told you about that CNN screenshot that I saw of like a farmer being like the little like bar headline thing was just so funny because he's just like there, he's like so sad, he's like and the headline is just like massive MAGA supporter, massive Trump supporter, whatever, begs Trump to back down on tariff war.
But
it's like, but boy, like you've done this to yourself, Anakin.
But then again, you had the January 6th people when they were begging Trump to get them out of jail, and he did. Like that's what he did. Like he smartly did it, and it's crazy, dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like he really said, I got you, and he got them, you know, which is not right. But if you were one of those people, you know, like say you were at a Black Lives Matter protest and Obama was like, nah, I got you, don't worry. But you like broke the law and then they freed them. Everybody would celebrate that.
Yeah.
We're hypocrites, man. We're just the biggest hypocrites ever.
I mean,
you know,
I will say there are people who did celebrate that. It's just like it goes back to like say like something that they didn't have during this time period, like social media and like algorithms and bubbles of like your feed and whatever. It's like
I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just saying like when people were upset that he pardoned the January 6th people, like I mean he's allowed to do that, you know, like that's what a president's allowed to do.
And I think I just like to be like more neutral about it all. It's just I think even if like that were the case of say like Obama and Black Lives Matter, there are gonna be people who would be upset about
that.
Biden
and Black Lives Matter technically, no, but
but people would be upset about that as well too.
Of course, like, but I'm saying that's the whole point of like what I'm trying to say is that like you can't get mad at what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like that's
we live in a society, we live in a democracy. You know, it's just like
we live in Queens, we live in Brooklyn.
But I mean, because I just feel like so many people like stress themselves out a little too much when it comes to politics.
100%. And I try not to get stressed out about it no more.
And even in the context of this book, where it's like it is very anti-monarchy, 100%. And we are in a very political high political tension right now in this country and stuff. I just saw that we rank lowest in happiness in the world.
I don't trust any of those fucking posts. That's
no, I mean, but it's
who's doing those posts?
No, I mean, of course, but it's just it's a funny thing.
I'm pretty sure Ukraine pretty sad right now. You know what I mean? It's crazy to think we're here shooting a podcast, motherfuckers getting bombed, and we're the saddest. Come on, dog. Yeah, no, that's crazy.
It's just. But the fact that those type of things are coming out just goes to show there are a lot of eyes on us, and it goes back to that conversation of being in a bubble and all that stuff where we think the whole world revolves around us.
But so do everybody else though.
Well, because we've talked about this before in the show, but as Americans, we are
even
more
that
generally
statement
ethnocentric than not.
But that statement in itself that we think the whole world revolves around us is just I don't know, bro. Doesn't it?
I mean, it's just you say that, but then it's just I
mean, to you though, right? Our worlds revolve around us.
No, I mean, it's that idea of it's my world, you're just living in it. It's your world, I'm just living in it.
It's the truth.
Yeah,
it's the truth. Why would we not think that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have seen and learned about how that level of ethnocentricity is higher in Americans than other people from other countries, and it's just
I don't think that's true.
I mean, I'm just saying. I've seen
the graphs.
I got the graph.
You seen the charts?
Don't you see it right here, Frankie?
Have you seen the tables?
The data doesn't lie.
they tell the truth, dog.
But it's just I've just read a lot about that and have looked a lot into that because that's very anthropological, anthropology and things like that, the study of culture and humans and all that shit. And it's just I've have looked into that stuff, and I do think it's that whole concept of how the whole world revolves around of us is a worldwide thing. Everyone thinks that. Yeah,
wouldn't China have that the highest with the highest population, and then it would happen more there with the communist thing and stuff like that?
Well, it's because it's that idea of you are right in the sense of there are a lot of eyes on America, where it's a lot of I see jokes on Reddit all the time during the elections where it's people on Reddit are oh great, that time of the year again where I have to fucking deal with American politics even though I'm not an American. And it's we are constantly spewing our bullshit out to the rest of the world.
Well, we are affecting the world also, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
literally economically and
and that's why I say you're right in the sense of a lot does revolve around us as a country in this world. But it's also in that same sense how you were saying there's no way we're the unhappiest in this world.
Yeah, because I don't think that's true at all. I think it's ridiculous because there's people living in real fucking tragic. That's when people were oh, I can't wait to leave this country. It's yeah, bro, but where are you gonna go?
That's why I say fuck the planet.
But the whole thing with the tariffs and then China saying we're gonna just tariff you back. Bro, I'm terrified of China, bro. I think people great, all that stuff and everything, but militaristically and then all economically and stuff, they're just big bullies that I'm just, even Russia, both of those motherfuckers, crazy to deal with both of them. And it's so crazy to just play around, Trump going on TV and talking to Zelensky and just kind of shitting on him, and JD Vance just being this little bitch on the background. He's well spoken though, he's very well spoken, but just being this little backup, I got your backup, and he's just they're not saying smart things, and it's just I don't know, man. But again, it's no better than Biden pretending to be this angel, or Kamala Harris just smiling, or Obama just speaking very well, or Hillary Clinton just being this garbage person, this garbage, complete gremlin little hoe, God, terrible person. I can't believe a whole country wanted Hillary Clinton to run just because she has a vagina. You know what I mean? That was the whole reason.
Go to the polls.
That was the craziest thing of all of us. And I'm not saying I'm happy that Trump beat her, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that at all. But it's so crazy how there's a bunch of Democrats completely disregarded what she talked about black people as and gay people as, all this stuff, She's such a hypocrite. And you guys will pull up any any Trump quote, and then you're oh, but he said this, but you won't look up Hillary Clinton shit and be oh, well, yeah, nah, that's why I say what I say, not because of I don't.
No, I mean, I will to kind of like tie it more into like what's because all of this
it's connected
in the fucking book.
Yeah, because we could stress the story, and it's a great story, and as much as you're right, it's connected. It's true because it's something that does relate to now, and I don't know if Victor Hugo would agree with us 100%, but he would definitely be like, yeah, fuck the higher class,
of course,
because they're shitting on all you guys right in front of your face. You know,
I feel like Victor Hugo would probably get along with like Karl Marx or something, and it's like
maybe, you know,
or like they would either love each other or hate each other.
You know what
I
I
don't think there's any in between for the two of them there, but it's just I think in general, like this whole conversation that we're having about our current state in the world and everything is very applicable to what happens in this tale, where it's just being very anti-monarchy. I think about you haven't seen it, but there's an amazing monologue in Game of Thrones in season 6. I think so, or season 4 or 6, with Tyrion by Peter Dinklage, his character. He has the most intense monologue that's like 6 minutes long.
Nice.
It's so fucking beautiful.
Little William Dafoe.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful fucking monologue. I've dead ass have like just watched that monologue like on YouTube, just like
I bet it's good. He's fucking awesome. I just never thought about that.
And it's just his whole monologue is going against everything that he was raised on. Because like the whole, like, without spoiling anything, you know, it's an old show at this point, whatever. But it's like without spoiling too much about it, like he's born into a very rich family, and that's like in the first episode, bitch. Like he's just like he's part of a rich family, but like because he's a dwarf is what they say. He's very shunned by his family for that reason.
He's still shunned to this day.
Okay. And so
by Six Flags roller coaster.
Not King the Ka. But he fucking pour one out. But he
the graphs.
You see how many times King the Ka has broken down?
So funny. Have you seen the charts, the graphs, the statistics?
The data doesn't lie, Frankie.
It's just there's so much stats. my bad. Continue.
But in that monologue, he just like finally he's on trial for something, and he finally explodes like at the trial, and he's just like, it just
it's a little spatter, and the judge is like, oh god.
It's like
little William Dafoe.
Little Willie. But he finally explodes and just like goes on this 6-minute monologue, just basically like talking down the system, his family, the monarchy, all this stuff. And he's just basically like, fuck you guys, I'm giving him. And it's just such a fucking sick, amazing, beautiful monologue. And it was super reminiscent of the end of this book, where it's very much of that same vein of just like, you know what? Like, fuck the system, and no one cares what I'm saying because all you guys think I'm just some freak.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, I think my closing statement for this like book altogether, which I think really wraps it up for me, is that I think Victor Hugo wrote this book with the like almost like a disparity to like give a message out. But what this book really works as is like what every rich person would love to give a poor person to read, because at the end of the day, like it gives you hope, and at the end nothing changes, and it's like the rich are almost laughing at you for reading this book and being like affected by it. Like even the rich listening to this conversation would probably laugh at us, you know? Yeah, like look at these fucking idiots, like they're changing nothing, and like I think that's ultimately like the tragedy of this book, where like if you're reading it and
it's
you're
straight up a tragedy, that's what it is.
But if you're reading it and you relate to it, like you're the man who laughs because you're delirious that you think anything will ever change again. I guess in this classism. And I don't know, you know the guy who walks around and asks people like, oh, in rich cars, like in very expensive cars, he's like, oh, what do you do for a living, right?
Oh yeah.
I was walking up around like Fifth Ave, which is like, bro, I mean I've been around it to deliver like boxes and stuff like that, and I've seen the inside of these houses and they're crazy. But I was there and I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if you go up to like people around this area and if they will allow you to talk to him, because I saw this guy parked up. And I was like, if you were to get killed, if you were to get killed, like, what would you affect economically? Not like, who would you affect economically? Not your family and stuff. Like, who would you affect if you died? And I wonder what the answer would be. Like, if they could answer it,
right? Like,
oh yeah, like the stock market would actually be disrupted, just the percentage.
GameStop.
Yeah. And then you would be like, oh, like how much? And they'll be like, oh, 0.03. And like, so that's what you do. And then, like, I wonder. And you know this. I don't know. Like, well, this we got cut out. I can't say that. We come back. and my thoughts in general is like, what do you feel when you become a billionaire, right? And is it almost like Gwynplaine in
his
this
ego
book,
trip,
right?
Like,
can you control that? You know, how much self what's the word, like
restraint or like
restraint, yeah, self control do you have to not become a crazy motherfucker when you become a billionaire? You know,
because I mean that's a very like difficult thing, because it's like, you know, we see it happen dozens of times, but then they also say that like money just makes you more of who you are. And like even for myself, I get scared of like that idea for myself of like with my comic stuff, if like that really launches off at any point, it's like, you know, what happens, like what am I gonna do with my money? I hope I just buy more comics. I hope I just buy more statues.
I come back here, you have a fancy mustache and a phone, and you're like, and all your gold plated comics, like, I mean, I haven't changed.
I haven't changed a bit, my dear old chum.
This is pretty funny, actually. I went to this is a story that actually relates to this whole thing. I went to the store the other day, and I'm finally good financially. Like, I have a good amount of money. Like, say that I'm good. Like, you know, I'm doing pretty good for myself. And I still look the same, though, right? Pretty much my hair has changed. I don't really cut my hair for that reason, because I don't really like people treating me differently if I, like, dress better. Or listen. That's the reason I keep my hair the way it is.
Okay.
Because, like, motherfuckers that's cool are going to treat me cool, but assholes will treat you like, you know, like, assholes who care about, like, that, yeah, you know, like I don't want to be close to those people if that's what deters you from being my friend, you know. And then I went to I just finished working a double, and I go to the deli, and I look crazy. Like, I have my hood on, my hat, my bags are like down here. I look very disheveled, right? And I order a sandwich, right? And then I'm like, oh, I never ordered a sandwich ever. I just get snacks and juice, whatever. And then I ordered the sandwich, and then after I finish ordering, the guy taps on the glass, and he goes, and I'm like, it's the bread, and I'm like, oh, a roll, and he's like, no, and I'm like, oh, and I read the sign that says no EBT.
Oh yeah,
I told you this, right? Yeah. And I look at him, and I never had an ego trip myself. Like, I chuckle at him, and like really, I was like, I got money, you know. Like, I tell him that, I'm like, but like, not seriously, not like a dick, but I was just more like, I got money. He's like, oh, I have to tell it to everybody. And in my head, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Because it's fucking, motherfucker Henry walks in here, all fucking, like, white guy walks in here, right? Not to be like that, you know, but like, or someone dressed up nice with like a nice haircut and like smelling good, you know, with the gold chain. Are you going to tell him that, you know? And then, and like, in my head, I was like, I know I told you this already, but just telling for the sake of this podcast and stuff, like, it's such an interesting thing that happened in my brain. Because who the fuck am I? Because a couple months ago, I was struggling OD. You know what I mean? Like, a year ago, like I would have probably been like, fuck, where can I get EBT though? And where can I get sandwiches through it? You know? Because I see motherfuckers use EBT to get groceries, and it looks nice. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, even in that little small sense, you know, given like the world I live in America and all this stuff, like, it's crazy, man. Even when you have just a little bit of money, you feel this like empowerment. Like, you feel almost like, why the fuck you talking to me like that? Like, who do you think I am? And it's just like, bro, like, calm yourself too, you know. And then he fucked up my sandwich.
as he should have, The way you were talking to him, you fucking Gwynplaine motherfucker.
Yeah, man, it's so interesting, bro. I mean, I guess that shows you the beauty of the book too, right? It makes you fucking chat about the economic state of the world right now.
You know, man, I'm just so tired of talking about, oh, have you seen the latest episode of this and that? I just want to talk about what's going on in the economical state of the world right now. Like, is that too much to ask for?
Can you imagine James would just get ahead and he just like, you know, this is great and all, but really we should. He's like, yo, shut the fuck up.
It's like having the best time of our lives. And it's just Jaden's just like, yeah, but did you guys see what happened in China?
Did you see what happened by box water? Man, I saw somebody drinking box water that he is a brand of. Mm-hmm. So dumb. But so dumb, bro. But my friend Chris called it a long time ago, like in middle school. He called it. He's like, yo, box water. And we were like, man, shut the fuck up, Chris. And now box water is everywhere.
Yeah, but don't get me started on black water.
Yo, all right, we got to end the episode.
I'm so dead ass. So
there's holes in the water. Handcuffs on the water. Okay.
It's dead ass a thing. Black water.
I know, the charcoal water. Yeah. That shit's stupid, bro. That shit's dumb.
It looks so gross. Like, what?
Just kidding about the handcuffs and the whole thing. That's not funny. We could say Mexican water. It's water in cages.
It's a Mexican Coke.
It's just horchata.
I think overall, like, for anyone,
white water is just a police badge.
Whoa.
Daddy,
chill. I need you to take 2 steps back, Turn around, get down on the ground, and don't do
shake that
nothing while
ass.
put.
He's gon' give it to you. He gon' give it to you. He's gon' give it to you. He gon' give it to you.
I was gonna say handcuff you. But damn, now
I don't know what came over me.
now I feel like if I say I handcuff you, I'd have to hit me with the.
Shout out Victor Hugo though. I'm sure he would love this.
Oh yeah, like
He's in his
fucking
grave like
rolling-
these dumb motherfuckers.
He's rolling so hard in his grave right now while I roll another one. Meow.
Jesus. Shout out Jesus.
At the end of the day, y'all, just gotta remember, don't be like Victor Hugo.
Yeah.
Don't write masterpieces, because
Don't
when
write,
you do,
don't.
you're gonna end up with having two idiots like us have a podcast hundreds and hundreds of years later in the future
Oh, yeah.
talking about bullshit.
Hell yeah.
That was Earth, Mind, and Matter.
Thank you for listening. Peace. That was bad funny.